Broadcasting from the Harlan Ford Studios in downtown Okmulgee. You're listening to KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma on 106.3 FM and 1240 AM.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stongo, Gary 5 Jaho Jufkida. Mvskoke Radio, Mabo Hedjera Wedgkis, Tonkon Chakayetka. Here in beautiful Okmulgee this morning. And that's probably, for me today, is the only beautiful thing so far. You ever have one of those days when nothing seems to go right? Well, this is one of those days. We had planned to have a discussion with the officials from the Department of Interior's Fish and Wildlife Service on the use of eagle feathers and who gets to keep them or pick them up or have them as part of their religious ceremony. As a number of tribes and groups are, not tribes, but non-federally recognized tribes are petitioning to have those feathers available to them, which they're not currently. But guess what? The feds backed out on me this morning. Instead of doing some pre-promotion for a meeting they've got actually in Oklahoma here next few weeks, they said, no, we'll wait until next week. And they didn't bother to tell me until this morning. So, heck of a start to the day. Anyway, and then I left my material back at the office. I had to rush back and get it. So I'm going to sit back and pout for a while, I think. Anyway, we do have some material we'll be sharing with you. We've got a couple of interesting events coming up later in this year, actually in the fall. And one of them, of course, will be Native American Day. But we wanted to share the observance of that day back in 2017 as Tulsa began to move towards more inclusion of Native American in their affairs. And then later on, we'll have a look back at the Tulsa Indian Arts Festivals. But till then, we hope that you will listen in and get something out of this particular piece.
Sammy Haynes, S-A-M-M-Y, last name is H-A-Y, N as in Nancy, E-S. I am chair of the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission.
This is Tulsa's dedication of former Columbus Day into Native American Day. What does it mean for you and the commission, first of all?
It's a great day for local Native Americans in the Tulsa area. The city acknowledges that the historical facts what's being taught in the public school system is inaccurate. So that's why we are acknowledging Native American Day in the city of Tulsa and kind of not really disregarding, but just acknowledging Native American Day and not really observing Columbus Day.
Now, as you are an Oklahoma native, right?
Yeah.
How about Tulsa? Are you Tulsa resident?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel kind of left out or so by the city and the state because they acknowledge all this other stuff, including the land run, but you never saw too much about Indian people?
Yes, there is a kind of a misconception of the establishment of Oklahoma, which began the Oklahoma Run, or the Oklahoma Land Run, which is not correctly portrayed at actually what happened. But what we can do as Native people to try and educate going forward the inaccuracies and teaching, I guess, the true story of how Oklahoma began, and in particular, how Tulsa began in its beginning as a tribal settlement, Creek tribal settlement.
Have you spoken with other Indian people about what's happening here, and did you get any feedback?
We've reached out to other cities who have experienced the same process that we're going through Native American Day. City of Denver has recently passed a resolution, continuing the Native American Day or the Indigenous Peoples Day throughout the city. So there are cities who are coming abroad to the realization that it's best and it's proper to honor the Native peoples versus Columbus.
I've been seeing actually where some major metropolitan areas, including like Denver, Seattle, Minneapolis, and a couple of others have acknowledged this day. Are you kind of glad Tulsa caught up?
Yes, Tulsa does have a very large population of Native Americans. We're always ranked in the top 3 U.S. cities with Native Americans. But yeah, we are, I wouldn't say behind the curve, but we are, like everybody else, acknowledging there are, obviously there are government procedures that have to go forward to have a Native American Day declared. So, and those processes take quite a while sometimes. And I know that Oklahoma City is doing their best to trying to get the Indigenous Peoples Day as well. And we were lucky that we had a mayor who was very receptive to our proposal, and actually was a sponsor of the resolution. He took that to City Council. City Council unanimously approved the resolution. And again, it dates back to the tribes who were here before the city became what was known as Tulsa City. The rich tribal heritage that the Creek, Osage, and the Cherokees bring to the area. And it was just fitting that council knew that it was just in the best interest of Tulsans to go ahead and proclaim November 9th as Native American Day.
Now, as chairman of the Tulsa Indian Affairs Commission, how do you see this proclamation as affecting your mission? What will you be doing?
Well, going forward, we will try and educate, try and get some information out to the public schools and try and help them kind of re-teach this part of history, how Columbus did not in fact discover America, how he was actually further south in South America, and that that would be a gradual increase or acknowledgement as far as which public schools actually try and foster that same idea.
Okay, any final thoughts you'd care to add?
No, it was a day of celebration, and hopefully everybody come out and enjoy themselves and maybe learn a few things and just socialize and celebrate Native American Day. We deserve it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Principal Chief James Floyd, we're here at the proclamation of Native American Day in Tulsa, which is the heart of our country here in the state of Oklahoma. First of all, what does it mean for you to have this happen?
Well, it's a historic day, especially for Mvskoke people, because this is Mvskoke territory here, and 70% of the city of Tulsa is in Mvskoke lands and in our boundaries. And so for the city of Tulsa to go from Columbus Day to have a celebration of Native American Day is, I think, a huge step in relationships between not just the Mvskoke people, but all Native Americans in the city of Tulsa. So I think it's a very positive step. and I hope that it leads to even further engagements between Indian people and the city of Tulsa, and can hopefully heal any existing wounds and lay the groundwork for future positive interactions with the city. So I'm very excited.
Let's walk down that path for a second here now. In the past, the relationship between these two governments wasn't that warm. Tulsa thought it was, going to go on its own, but then the Creek Nation showed its presence and its economic wallop, so to speak, and Tulsa changed its tune. Now, are you glad to see it finally kind of played catch-up? Because there are other major metropolitan areas around the nation that have already made such a declaration. So it's glad to see Tulsa playing catch-up here.
I am. I think that, especially with first-term mayor, G.T. Bynum, his first year in office, to have this designation, I think kind of sets that as a priority, that Native American people are important, Mvskoke people are important, and I think it's apparent in the dominance of both, or all, the Creek, Cherokee, and Osage nations, and how much we mean to the city of Tulsa today, not just our historic legacy, but today and in the future. So it's a very good start.
Is this event going to spark any activity, good jumping off points for your agenda?
I believe that today will be a good start in further relationships. We've met with Mayor Bynum before. He's very pleased with our presence here in the city of Tulsa, and we have been talking about what's the next steps and what we may do. Not just in any commercial development, but in the school system that he and I both see as a high priority. Make sure their education gets there and is portrayed correctly. Our interaction with maybe other schools in the Tulsa area. So it's going to be a great start to what we will be doing in the future.
So you see it as a real positive relationship from now on then?
I do. And I know that, as you mentioned before, other cities have already begun this, but in the state of Oklahoma, I'm not sure any other cities have done this. They have the second largest city in Tulsa, and in Oklahoma, as Tulsa, making this step. It shows the progress and the progressiveness of the people here.
Okay, well, I think actually Norman has, and Oklahoma City is kind of on the brink. So you want to give them a little shove over the edge and say, come on, do it?
I think this will probably influence them. I think that they see if Tulsa can do it, they should do it as well. I think it's the respectful thing to do.
Okay, any final thoughts, sir?
Well, it's a great day, weather-wise.
A lot of hard work went into this, and I want to say thank you to each and every person that had a part in this. Our very first Native American Day here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are going to have a wonderful time here today. My name is Chuji Kingfisher. I will be your MC for this activity here today. It is a great honor for me to be here and represent my people, my tribe, Native American Oklahoma. I am of Cherokee and Kituwa descent. Glad to be here with each and every one of you, as we say in our language, Sio, Tohiju, oh, see what the God wants. I hope everyone's all right. So if you would, please stand and remove your headgear as we come to Miss Mary Kay Harshaw Henderson. Went back to her old name there for a little bit. As she sings the Lord's Prayer, and these young ladies right here representing various nations will do the Lord's Prayer in sign language. Mary Kay, if you would, please.
home to a population of approximately 30,000 Native Americans, and
whereas Native Americans have contributed immeasurably to our city, state, and country, distinguishing themselves as scholars, artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders in all aspects of our society, and
from the American Revolution to military missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, Native Americans have served valiantly in the armed forces of the United States in proportionally greater numbers than the general population, and
whereas the lands now known as the United States of America were occupied by millions of people for thousands of years before the arrival of the first Europeans, and
whereas Native peoples of this land aided in the survival of the first European settlers, and
whereas the city of Tulsa recognizes the fact that Tulsa is built upon the lands first inhabited by the Native Americans of this region, and
whereas all too often an inaccurate portrayal of history is taught in our school systems that Columbus and the Europeans were the first peoples to discover America, and
whereas an Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 in lieu of Columbus Day by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations-sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, and
whereas a growing number of American cities have recognized the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day, reassigning Columbus Day as an opportunity to celebrate Indigenous heritage, contributions, and resiliency, and
whereas the city of Tulsa recognizes its Indigenous population as Native Americans who have made invaluable contributions to our community through their shared knowledge, stewardship of these lands, labor, science, technology, philosophy, arts, and deep cultural influences that have substantially shaped the character of the city of Tulsa, and
now therefore be it resolved, the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, declares that the second Monday in October as Native American Day in recognition of its Native American citizens, and calls on all Indian tribes, national and regional organizations, and all Americans to commemorate this day with appropriate programs and activities to celebrate and honor the culture, contributions, and traditions of Native Americans. Aho, thank you, City of Tulsa.
Our special guest has arrived, and so we want to give him a chance to speak as we've read our proclamation here. And so would you please make welcome at this time the Honorable Mayor G.T. Bynum. Please give him a round of applause. And so what we are doing is that many of our engagements that we have, many of the things that we have, many of our distinguished honorees, we gift them with a gift, whatever it may be. Today, we are honoring the mayor with the Pendleton as we drape it across his shoulder before we give him a chance to speak. And we want to say thank you, sir, to you and your city council for everything you have done. And so at this time, sir, if you would.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to accept this on behalf of all my fellow Tulsans. This first was brought to my attention after I won the election last year, and if we don't have a day, or did not have a day, to recognize and achievements of the great Native Americans who call Tulsa home and have historically. And so I was thankful that we had a commission in place, the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission, that I could work with to develop a resolution declaring today to be Native American Day in Tulsa. They did a lot of work looking around the country at what cities had done it well, developed a very good recognition of the day. And then, of course, I needed the approval of my colleagues on the Tulsa City Council. And I'm so thankful that we live in a city where the contributions of the Native American community here were so glaringly obvious. But when I presented it to the Tulsa City Council, when these types of proclamations have been presented to other city governments in other places around the country, in other cities here in Oklahoma even, there's been controversy, there's been pushback, there's been lengthy debate, but not here in Tulsa. Here in Tulsa, when I presented this to my colleagues on the Tulsa City Council, every single one of them said, this makes sense, we need to do that. And a number of us couldn't believe that it hadn't already happened. And that night it was unanimously approved. And so, yes. And so as we work to build this city up in the 21st century to make it the world-class city that we believe it is, we recognize the contributions of the Native American community to make it that. We recognize that this is, in the whole world, one of the foremost cities that's been shaped and influenced by Native Americans. And that's one of the things that makes Tulsa so special. And so today and every day forward on this day, in the years moving forward, this is going to be an opportunity for us to recognize those contributions, to recognize what makes Tulsa so special, and to recognize the Native Americans who built this city up and will continue to do so in the 21st century. So again, on behalf of all my fellow Tulsans, I'm so thankful.
Hello, it's Jay. Thank you and good morning. It's certainly a pleasure this morning on behalf of Mvskoke Creek Nation to thank the city of Tulsa, the Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission, acknowledging today as Tulsa's first celebration of Native American Day. This recognition comes at a time when we, the Mvskoke people, recall our first arrival here in 1836. October is when we remember our forced relocation from our homelands in Alabama and Georgia, in settlement in what's known today as Council Oak Park at 18th and Cheyenne, the hilltop that overlooks the Arkansas River. Mvskoke were Tulsa's first residents. According to the Mvskoke Creek Nation geospatial records, more than 70% of modern-day Tulsa is within Mvskoke territory. Our nation commends the first-term mayor, G.T. Filer, for putting this day in the forefront of his priorities, and to the council for passing it on its first try. We applaud the city of Tulsa and the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission for development of educational material to be placed in schools to include our factual history and that of the Cherokee and the Osage and other nations who are stakeholders of this great city. Our people established a rich culture and the influence that helped fashion this city, including the naming of the city after an historic Mvskoke Creek town in our former homelands. Again,
My name is James Pepper Henry. I'm Kaw and Mvskoke Creek, and on my Mvskoke Creek side, my grandmother was a Childers. She was from Broken Arrow Tribal Town and Bird Clan, Mvskoke Clan.
And I understand you serve on Tulsa's Indian Affairs Commission?
Yes, I'm one of the city commissioners for the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission.
I understand from what I heard today you were part of the spark that got this resolution headed for our city council, is that right?
Well, actually, the Mvskoke Creek Nation played a very big role in making this happen, getting the other tribes, especially the 5 tribes, to sign a resolution in support of this effort. And then myself and some of the other city commissioners, and Kim Teehee in particular, Cherokee Nation, helped draft the resolution that went before the city council for approval.
Okay, is it a case of finally for Tulsa to adopt such an ordinance?
Well, it's been a long time coming, and Tulsa has one of the highest populations of native peoples of any city for its size, and it's the first major city in Oklahoma to adopt this type of resolution. I know it's been tried in Oklahoma City a couple times, and they haven't had much success there yet, but hopefully this will inspire Oklahoma City to follow suit, because there are 39 recognized tribes in Oklahoma, a huge part of the population, and our Native American people have contributed so much to the economy and to the life and culture and lifeways of Oklahoma.
Okay, finally, do you expect this declaration perhaps to give a little extra momentum to whatever agenda the commission may have?
Well, yes, and I one of the missions of the commission is to develop curriculum or work with others to develop curriculum for our school systems to teach an accurate history, especially of Native American history. And people don't always get the truth. They don't always get the full picture. People think Columbus discovered America. Well, Columbus inadvertently came across America, but there were 25 million people here when he got here. So, but I think in our school systems, people are still being taught that the Europeans were the first ones to arrive, and we all know that's not true.
Great, thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hey, these things spread like mosquitoes. Now, as a former Tulsa boy, kind of wondered where our Native American people in history played a part in the development of Tulsa. It was never really acknowledged like in the schools or by the government. So now we have made that change. So what are your thoughts and thinking there?
Well, it's very important to me as mayor that we are one city that's working together to compete at a national and international level. And a big part of that is recognizing how we got here. Tulsa exists here because of our Native American founders who founded this place and built the city here originally. And today, as mayor, I want us to be recognizing all the contributions that Native Americans make to our city. And for Tulsans to realize that and see that these are things that we're going to be working on together moving forward as we continue to build our city up. So honestly, I was shocked that we didn't have this day already, but I'm really thankful that for my colleagues on the city council, when I presented this to them, it was a no-brainer that we should have this in Tulsa.
A number of other major metropolitan areas have made this declaration. So was it really time for Tulsa to kind of step up to the plate?
You know, a number of other cities around the country have done it, but we've had a number of cities, even here in Oklahoma, that have decided not to do it. And one of the things I'm proud about with Tulsa is that debate never popped up here. People wanted this to happen here. People recognize the contributions that Native Americans make here in Tulsa, and so it was a given. As soon as I presented this to the council, I said we should have done this a long time ago. Let's get it done, and we got it done in time to have it recognized this year.
Finally, Mayor Bynum, will this provide some kind of spark now for an agenda for the city of Tulsa to be working with tribal government?
As soon as I was elected, I went around and met with the chiefs of each of the 3 tribal governments that are here in Tulsa, told them that I view it as crucial that we're working together, and I'm thankful that all 3 of them and their councils have agreed that they want to have that partnership between the city and our tribes that are here. This is one way that we can recognize that partnership, but there's going to be a lot of other things moving forward that we need to be working together on, and I'm looking forward to that too.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The sounds of Native American Day 2017. And as that event comes up, Mvskoke Media will be downtown Tulsa to cover the event and bring you some of the wonderful things that make up this observation. We'll take a short pause here, and then we're going to be reviewing the Tulsa Indian Arts Festival from year past. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio, here on The Brew.
Amphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
The Indian Arts Festival is a wonderful part of our local culture here and celebrates the wonderful vision and abilities of Native American artists from our region and probably from the area. Now, we have always looked at that particular event as a wonderful showcase for Native American culture. It'll be coming up again probably before too long, but there'll be some changes, I'm sure, in dealing with who gets to exhibit real federally recognized tribal people or not. There's been some debate about that. But we thought we would take a moment to revisit that and refresh some memories. The festival is an important segment of the Native American art scene for our region. We've known of it for a number of years, and even its location out here in Glenpool, and not actually in Tulsa anymore, but it seems to be working pretty well. It seems that the Tulsa Indian Arts Festival is kind of one of the highlights of the year for Native artists, so maybe you could tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I can start by telling you the reason we choose the month of February is that in 29 years, our repeating artists that come back every year have requested, because this starts their circuit calendar. They like to make it to Glenpool, Oklahoma first. Then they start out with the spring and summer commitments that they've already made. So that's why we feel privileged that they stop here with us for 3 days and start their year off with us.
Why is it important that this festival go on each year? It would seem to be an important reminder to the people of Oklahoma that the Native people are here and still a very vibrant part of the state's culture.
I believe it educates a lot of people. Native Americans in this part of the country, of course, we all know they've been here for centuries. That doesn't mean that we can't always educate. We have dancers here, we have flute players here, all of our culture that we can expose to someone who is interested and respectful. We feel that is a major part of us holding on this festival.
Is that still a challenge? You'd think that Oklahoma would be, quite familiar and comfortable with its Native people, but that hasn't always been the case. So, tell me about that challenge.
Well, I believe it's always a challenge. New generations are born every day, as we know, and our young people, in emphasizing that we are now trying to expose our language to our younger generation and have them with their acquaintances. Doesn't mean that they all have Native American friends and their families. So education will be ongoing, respect will be ongoing. It's just a work in progress, but it's one that we find very dear to our hearts, and we're going to work hard at it.
The economics of this festival would be an important part of the artist's annual income. Let's just talk dollars and cents there. And this festival seems to be a pretty good starting place. It seems to get a good response. How important is the dollar for these artists?
Well, when you make a living traveling, we all know that traveling is expensive. A lot of these artists take their families along, so that is added obligations that they have to make. Like drawing a paycheck, you're not on a time clock, so therefore your time clock is your own. It's vital that they kick off the year very well to substantiate what they need for the rest of the year. So it's an ongoing progress, and we hope that our weather holds this year. Lots of factors come to play to make a successful art festival. So far, we've been very fortunate. We have a very busy today, Saturday, and we will be here again on Sunday from 11 to 5 tomorrow.
Do you have any feel for what kind of money an artist might make? I know you've got different types out there, different media, different levels of experience and exposure, but what can an artist make at a festival like this?
Well, dollar amount, you figure travel expenses, plane tickets. Not everyone drives, and then they have to pay their lodging and their food. So a good festival in a dollar amount would anywhere in, say, $3,000 to $4,000 would be substantial, but they don't always make that. So there again, exposing their artwork and their cultural background to people can make them appreciated, and perhaps they want to own that and take it to their own homes.
And for Tulsa, that would seem to be kind of a nice little, particularly Glenpool, a nice little economic impact.
Well, yes, this is a wonderful facility. The first year we were out here was 3 years ago, and our artists had told us, we pass out a survey at the end of the festival. They found a home here. They feel very comfortable. We have the entire conference center. We have a language seminar going on today at 2. And so in using the whole facility here, it's a wonderful thing that Glenpool has added to their community. And I think it will only enhance people to get out and enjoy the day here with us at the festival.
You mentioned a language seminar. That's kind of unusual sidebar, if you will, to any arts show. I mean, I just have no recollection of something like that ever happened. What else have you got going on besides just the art show? I noticed dancers here, and we heard drumming and singing.
Well, an added bonus this year is we have one of our artists who is a clothing maker, and she is going to have a fashion show on Sunday. So that's something new. Her clothing reflects tribal backgrounds, but is not strictly something they would wear to dance in. It's enhanced by the fact that she uses fibers and colors and designs. But the fashion show is an added feature this year, and our language seminar, we can't emphasize enough how important the education is to get to our young people and have them speak fluid in their own tongue. And now this is something that will always be a feature of the festival. We feel we're educating everything, but language is a big issue, and I think it's a mighty plus. Anyone's invited to sit in on the seminar. We have about 7 or 8 chiefs going to be represented with different tribes today, so we're very excited to have them back.
Finally, what kind of feedback do you get either from the public or the artists themselves about this festival?
Well, they feel at home here. The facility is a great facility. There's plenty of room. The publicity is good. The featured artist is put out on posters, and we feel we've done a good job publicity-wise. It's very important for them to feel comfortable that they are going to be exposed to the public in publicity and news media, that type of thing, which we're fortunate to have guests like yourself come by and ask us to give a part of the history and the reason for the festival.
My name is Merlin Little Thunder. I'm a Southern Cheyenne. I'm a painter in all medias.
Okay. Why don't you take a second here and describe your work? You're out here with a lot of competition here today, but you've got some beautiful pieces out here. Tell me about your work.
Well, my work is basically speaks about my growing up years, learning about traditional ways. Because I was raised traditional, and we were taught a certain way. We were taught to respect the earth and the animals. So that's what my work reflects, and respect our elders and our children. So that's what I try to the message I try to get across to people.
Okay, how important is this Tulsa Indian Arts Festival to you, and I guess your economics, your income for the year? I mean, what part does it play?
Well, it's a big part of my life, and we try our best to try to share it with everybody and try to make sure everybody comes over here and has the opportunity to support themselves through their art, through their artistic endeavors, and it's it's important to keep it alive and keep it going to let all of our people know, not just my tribe, but all the other tribes know that we're people who celebrated everything. That's our way. We celebrate, and want people to know that. Don't forget that. Don't forget that we celebrate things. Whether it's in our ceremonies or whether it's in our dances, songs, storytelling, whether it's in the way that we make our costumes, the way we make our implements. It's all a part of a larger celebration.
What about the financial side of it? I understand, a lot of artists travel the circuit, and how important is the Tulsa Festival for you and working that circuit?
Well, it's important in the sense that this is the first festival that kicks off the festival season, and everybody gets to put together the inventory and they get ready for the next festival. So what we don't sell here spins off to the next festival, I think it's important that we make sales here. A lot of us do. We always cover our expenses. We always cover our travels. But, most importantly, we get to be among one another. We get to share our camaraderie with each other. We always look forward to seeing one another at the next show, because a lot of us all travel to the same shows. And we all talk about the last show and how it could have been better and what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. And we all share that. And then we share that with the organizers, and they make adjustments as we go along.
How about looking maybe at the other side of that coin, so to speak? Does it generate a little bit of competitiveness, and does that affect what you do?
Yeah, it does. It does. We have a competitive art show here, a competition, and all the artists put their best foot forward, and they do their best. They do their best work over here and bring it over here. And, there's a lot of competition against a lot of these various artists, but we all know like I said, we all know one another. We all know what each other's capable of doing. And some artists always say, "Well, I'm not going to enter it because so and so's in it," and because certain artists win all the time. But it's not always the case. It's just your expression. Whatever you tend to put forward, it's your fire. It's the fire that's within you. When you let it burn brightly, the judges see that. They'll look at work and they'll say, "Oh, look, this guy put a lot of effort in there. This guy's having fun with this work." And they can tell if you didn't put very much effort in there. They can tell if you just threw it together to get it ready for competition. They can tell that. And not very many artists do that, but some of them do that. But it's important to do your very, very best. And the judges know it. They see that and they recognize it, and they give the awards based on those concepts.
Kind of an unusual question you kind of posed in my mind as you were responding there. When you're working on a piece, what drives you? Is it the need to get this creative spark from your mind and heart onto a canvas or a paper, or is the need to make some money? How do those balance out?
Well, a lot of times, on a higher plane, these images just appear. They just totally appear by themselves. And, you have to just let it happen. And if you try to change the direction that particular light is going, then these artists will say, "I have a block on that one. I have writer's block. I have an artist block on that one." They don't really have an artist block. They try to change the direction of the painting or sculpture or drawing the way it was supposed to be going, the way it was initially going when paintings and some of these art endeavors just appear by themselves.
Well, that's everything I wanted to ask you. At this point, is there a final thought or a comment that you want to share?
Well, I just encourage everybody to do their very best at these Indian art shows, because we're all watching. We all see it. We all know who's doing their very best, and it's important to make money, but then it's also important to really put your best foot forward, because a lot of times you have your foot in the door when you get your foot in the door in these art festivals, but it's important to keep it there. You have to work real hard to keep it there.
My name is Tracy Rabbit. Tribal affiliation is Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, and the medium I work in is acrylic.
All right, by the way, I just gave my wife one of your cards for her birthday.
Wow, all right.
The one with the butterflies on it.
Yes, okay.
All right, well, tell me about the artwork that you put down. I noticed a lot of different, I guess, what would you call it, styles and different media. So tell me about what you do.
I mostly concentrate on painting Native American women. And when I do show at a show, featured artists such as here at the Tulsa Indian Arts Festival, I also bring a lot of my dad's work as well. But my main focus is on the Native American woman.
All right, we have what are the oils?
Acrylic.
Acrylics. And you have prints, tiles, cups. I see a mix there of the creative element and a bit of the commercial end of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to pay the bill. So tell me about how does that split and how do you decide what to do with it?
When I get ready for a show, of course it depends on what part of the country, but everything that you see in our booth, as you mentioned, the coffee mugs, the tiles, mouse pads. We also have cell phone covers, coasters. Everything that you see in my booth is produced by my family in Pryor, Oklahoma. So you have to have a variety of gift items, like you said, in all price ranges. That way people can take a piece of your art home and enjoy.
And that is a critical part of coming to a show?
Absolutely, absolutely. As artists, we have to pay our expenses. You have your booth fee, your travel, your gas, your food. And so having the gift items in a variety of price ranges helps us with our expenses.
Now you mentioned a focus on Native women, and that's become such a strong element in many programs and artistic styles around the country. A lot of effort to support the role of women in our emerging societies. Why is that such an important part?
I think as Native American women that we are very capable of walking in both worlds, the Anglo world and our native world, and I'd like to, through my art, show the strength and how she can weather all storms no matter what she faces and come out on the other side in a positive manner.
Does that come out of the Cherokee tradition of a matrilineal society of women playing such an important role? Does that figure in?
I definitely believe so. That being my heritage, the Cherokee women have always played a very important role, not only in family, decision making, government. So that's definitely something that I like to portray in my art.
And I understand even on decisions about war and peace.
Absolutely, yes.
Now the festival here seems to be the start of the circuit for a lot of Native American artists. How important is the Tulsa Indian Art Festival to you and what you do?
It has always been an important show to do. It's a home show, and we always like to, as artists, local artists especially, we like to support what's going on in the Tulsa area. And as you mentioned, it is the start of the art festivals for the year. So anytime that there's something going on in Oklahoma, I like to be a part of it.
In terms of economics, how important is it?
Well, I'm a full-time artist. This is how I make my living, so it's very important, very important. You have 3 days to sell, visit with collectors, to pay the bills for the next month.
And some camaraderie with fellow artists?
Absolutely. We kind of become an extended family of sorts, and we travel down a lot of the same roads to different shows.
One of the things I guess you have to deal with is a bit of competition between each other. I mean, different styles and, for customers, so to speak. How does that work out?
Honestly, I really don't look at it as a competition. I think when an Oklahoma artist, even of a different tribe, I think as Native Americans, in my opinion, I definitely support them. I want everybody to have a success at the show that they're at. I believe any collector walking through the door can take that dollar and spend it anywhere, whether it's in my booth, the artist across the way, or Walmart right next to us. So when they decide to take their money, their hard-earned money, and buy a piece of my art, it's like winning a blue ribbon to me. So I feel very blessed to do what I do for a living, and just blessed beyond words, really.
Final question, then. How important is it for this festival to occur, to sort of remind the state of Oklahoma and the dominant population, that we're still here, that we're an important part of it, and becoming even more important, even in terms of economics and things like that. But sort of remind those folks that Native people are still around.
I think through festivals, it gives us the opportunity to let people know that, yes, we are still around, that we are a strong presence, especially in the state of Oklahoma. In the beginning, when it used to be Indian country, and now we've proven the longevity, and that we are a smart entrepreneurial tribes that are very successful in what we do and our endeavors that we take on. So I think the presence of the Native people will continue to be a strong presence in Oklahoma in all things we do besides art.
That's everything I wanted to ask. At this point, is there a final thought, a comment, or something you'd like to share?
I just feel really honored and humbled to be asked to be the festival. I can't think of the word. Premier artist. I'm kind of tongue-tied right now, but it's just an honor to be here with such prestigious artists that surround me, and I feel very blessed.
Don't feel bad. I fumble a lot too.
My name is William Harjo. I am a full-blood Creek Indian, and I grew up in McIntosh County, Hanna, Oklahoma. Today I live in Livingston, Texas, close to the Alabama Coushattes. And what else?
You've got an incredible variety of artwork on your table here. Tell me about what you produce.
Okay, what I produce is I make handmade flutes. I started with the river cane, and I've expanded to cedars and hardwoods. And they're all handmade by me. They're signed and numbered. Now, the river canes are like those, you cannot key to a certain key or a note because it's a plant that grows, and they're like people. And those I call my beginners. That's for people who want to learn how to play the Indian flute, and I sell them for $15. And that's something that people can afford, and don't really know if they want to play or not. And that's something that helps them out. If they can learn to play those little ones, they can play the bigger ones.
Is this show and the exhibitions that you do more of a creative outlet, or is it a commercial endeavor, or is it balance out?
It started out as a healing process for me because I had a burnout at my work. I used to live in Kansas City. I was into being an alcohol and drug counselor, and I've been at it for years. And I had a burnout. And that year I had a heart attack, and being on meds, Prozac didn't work for me at all. And I just got disgusted with the entire Kansas City community, and I moved into Texas, and I was renting a house, drawing unemployment, and just going down to the creek, bringing up the little river cane and making flutes out of them. And I still had a son that was a dancer that I was trying to get through school. And so after I started making them, somebody recommended that I take some to a powwow, maybe make gas money. And I've been doing that ever since. I was at it for 5 years before I realized I had a business.
Now, let's talk about the business end for a second here. It's been said to me many times that the Tulsa Indian Arts Festival is sort of the kickoff of the arts season for many artists who travel the circuit. How important is this to you economically?
This is pretty important to me. Well, first of all, this here allows me to cross the lines of being an arts and craft vendor into more of an artist status by being allowed to be here, because as far as art, most of it's all based on visual, and I usually don't win any art contests. Well, I have before, but the pieces that I made were elaborate, and I can make them, but unfortunately I don't have any available now because the one I had I sold about a month ago, and I haven't made another one yet. That's why I didn't have an art piece for here. But my art is in the tuning and the sound that I'm producing rather than the visual. And I'm trying to make it for people who actually, this is what I call usable art.
And does it return much in terms of sales?
Yes, it does. It's
festival.
And there's collectors out there that come looking for mine, and that helps. I've been to museums at Cahokia Mountains. I did the Booth Museum in Georgia last year. I also did the Six Nations Museum by Albany, New York. And there's another program that I do where I play on stages. I used to do New Jersey shows. Now I'm doing Victor, New York. It's over by Rochester. And so I've done Las Vegas at the museum there. So museum shows has really been profitable, and it's been, as far as getting my flutes known, they have been really instrumental in that.
And the Tulsa Festival is sort of the kickoff of your year, is that it?
Yes, it is. I did just a little thing last January. This is the first major show for me this year. And from here, I'll be moving on to doing other shows. But I usually do large powwows like Denver March Powwow or Albuquerque. But so this here is actually, yes, please. These are all, yes, this is a good place to start.
How important is this show in reminding Oklahomans that its native people are still here? We're still a viable and part of the culture and economy. Just sort of a reminder, say, hey, they don't just the dominant society. We're here.
Yeah, well, there was a medicine man that spoke to me one time. His name is Archie Fire Lame and he's a Lakota medicine man. And at the time I met him, and he made a statement which I think is very true. And it says that there was native people on this continent before the arrival of the Europeans. And he said, and he viewed it as though they were our guests for a time. And it says, and after they've returned or after they're gone, it says Native Americans will still be here. They were here before, and they're going to continue to be here. And I kind of respect that thought. I think it's a good thought to keep. And the Creek people being in this area, I think is really important to us. I can go back in history, and I know that a man broke the law to get us here, and that I still have a little remorse feelings over that, But hey, how long can we carry that? Well, I guess it's going to be there for a while.
The artists and some of the sounds of Tulsa Indian Arts Festival. As they mentioned, it happens in February. This is, of course, a repeat of an earlier program, but we thought it might be something that you might want to take a look at, as a lot of Indian celebrations around our state and the nation are really kicking off, and we're going to see some big ones, including Powwow of Champions, I believe, and even the Gathering Place is talking about having an indigenous celebration there. So when that happens, we'll want to talk to those folks and find out what we've got and bring you some of the news and the sounds from those things. Now, as I said earlier at the beginning of the show, we were scheduled to talk with the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service about changes to the rules for the religious use of bird feathers, in particularly the eagle. We'll try and put that one back together for you at some point, and we'll put the feds on the spot and say, hey, you can't do that to me. We're going to come down harder on you. Anyway, journalist revenge there a little bit. All right, real quick, we do have at least one announcement here. The 2019 Hope Conference is coming up August 21st and 22nd at the River Spirit Casino Resort. It is a free event, and session topics include survivors of suicide, building resilience in Native communities, substance abuse, veterans suicide ethics, self-care, and LGBT BTQ Two-Spirit. They can make a difference, help prevent suicide in our community. So if you're interested, more information about behavioral health at 918-758-1930. Okay, that'll do it for me this week, and next week we'll be talking about presidential. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But